In this video, we'll be destroying, rebuilding, changing, and overall improving the new Collector's Edition Hogwarts Express set in one of my largest mods video ever, so without further ado, let's get on. And what a better way to start than tearing the whole thing apart. One thing I immediately noticed when building this set was the underside of the train was done in a bunch of funky colors. The Technic mechanism is all done in dark orange, brown, tan, and black. And honestly, most of this system is fine, but when looking at the train from the side, you can see two Technic bricks, the dark orange one and the brown one, and this unfortunately takes a bit of the illusion away when using the mechanism. Now, I wouldn't usually say this would be so bad, but when you're using the mechanism, these parts actually spin, drawing more attention to them. And the thing I find particularly strange is that both of these bricks come in black. Perhaps Marcos Besser did this just for ease of building, as I know some people got it wrong, but for those of us who are advanced builders, I'm going to replace these two pieces underneath with black ones. So hopefully when using the mechanism, they blend in a little bit better as if they were meant to be there. And while I'm under here, I'm also going to change these light bluish grey pieces to black as well. As much as I do like the colour variation for ease of building, all of this underside should be black. And if I'm honest, it's one of the most simple mods on this list if you don't mind ripping apart the Technic mechanism. Now while we're down at the wheels, I just want to throw out another mod, arguably way easier than the first one, and another questionable decision by the designers. Again, I believe it's for ease of use, but the connecting rods down here look absolutely fantastic until you realize that the front connecting rod bearing is done in a dark bluish grey piece as opposed to everything else which is black. Again, this piece comes in black. This set is marketed at 18+. Just put one of those pay attention logos so we know that this piece is the correct piece. We even use the same piece in black later on in the build as part of the firebox, and this piece is in black, so I'm a bit confused to why these two are grey. But it is a simple case of just rebuying these pieces in black and then swapping them out. Much better. Additionally, I would have loved to add more of the connecting rod detail, but as I want to keep the cylinders relatively this size, I need a bit more time to think about this one, as I really do want to keep the functionality as I plan to one day do something really special with this train. But what I can do is add this additional piston that is meant to be in front of the first large wheel. I've used these little pieces, including some candlestick pieces in black, which are relatively easy to get off of minifigures like the Clone Troopers, as they have them on most of their guns now. But if you don't mind adding an additional plate here, you can always use just a generic cylinder. Again, all we're trying to do here is just give a little bit more detail. This leads us to the front of the train. Now I know a lot of people aren't a massive fan of the buildable crest on the front of the train, but personally I really like it, with the only downside being that Hogwarts Express plaque is actually a sticker, a complaint I emphasize more in my actual discussion video on this set, which you should totally look at if you haven't looked at it already. But one thing I didn't like about this buildable plaque is that the crest is represented as a 1x1 white stud, and this is meant to have the Hogwarts crest on it. And breaking out an old sticker sheet from the playset for that discussion video on this set, I noticed on the Hogwarts crests that are meant to go on the side of the tender, there is a perfectly sized sticker with a 1x1 sized Hogwarts crest on it. Now call this one a little bit more creative, but I thought I'd take a 1x1 tile, break out the scissors, cut round that sticker, place that sticker on the 1x1 stud and put it on the front of the train, adding that iconic Hogwarts crest to the front of the train. This just adds that little tiny bit more detail to the front of the train, and like I say with all of these mods videos, takes it from 99 to 100%. People sometimes forget this is a set centered around detail and displayability, so at least for me, I want every single inch of this train to be screaming detail. But if I'm totally honest, I can totally understand why you wouldn't want to do this mod. I know some people are a bit funny about cutting up sticker sheets, but hopefully we'll see an official 1x1 tile that's printed in something like the Dots pack that's rumored to come out at some point next year. So then you can just stick an officially printed tile on the front of your train with hopefully the correct colors, but we'll have to wait and see what comes out with the set. For now though, I'm happy with this. Another thing I thought was a bit lacking in detail was the front buffer beam. I found the techniques on the buffers used to be a relatively interesting one, a technique I previously thought to be illegal. And although I appreciate the fact that they've used plates here and not jumpers to maybe try and represent the rivets that are on this buffer beam, it doesn't explain the lack of a coupler, coupling hook, and vacuum brake hose, especially because this is made on brand new brackets that make these details incredibly easy to add. Again, detailed set is ringing bells here, but I don't think it'll be hard to just take some simple pieces and add them to the front of the train. You can see I've used a whip piece to act as that vacuum brake hose, and using a couple of elements like this droid body, really tried to make it look like a coupler. Now I would have done this for the rest of the train as well, but unfortunately their buffer beams are made in completely different ways, and unfortunately would require a redesign if I was going to do anything with them. And when I've redesigned the whole train to make it motorized, that's not particularly something I'm down for. Which reminds me, although I'd love to motorize this model, it's unfortunately really impractical at this current moment in time. There's no type of rail that this can go on or has been tested on, looking at you Gauge 1 fans, so unfortunately I don't see any point of motorizing this particular train right now. But if you were interested in seeing a motorized version, I have redesigned this entire train basing it off of my old one and added motor functions and did it for half the price. If you guys are interested in checking that out, a link will be on the end of this video. But before that, we got more mods to do. And now onto the most major mod that I have planned for this set. We're going to start by removing the engine's roof, as there's a detail I really want to point out to you guys. When I was building the set, I noticed the step down on the roof was completely wrong. Now I understand this is Lego and you will get this step down plate effect, but honestly I believe there was a much better way to do this than what Lego did here, just by adding a black plate so there's a consistent step down here. And as I was redesigning this roof, I noticed that there was no indication to a whistle, the iconic sound of the Hogwarts Express, and Lego didn't even think to put in the detail that made that sound possible. But don't worry, I didn't want to miss out something like that. So again, taking some relatively common pieces, we can add them to the roof here and give this train a whistle. But as for the next mod, I want to leave the roof off, as the interior cab detail on this set is frankly abysmal, and something I again talked about in my discussion video on this set. So in looking up a bunch of pictures to try and get a bit more detail up in here, I settled on this. Now immediately you'll notice that I took away that hose piece and replaced them on either side with pearl gold bars. This is trying to represent the copper or brass tubing that goes up the side of trains. You'll also notice that I added a load of dials, represented by this pearl gold clock piece that's relatively new, and although this print is rather expensive on things like Bricklink, I really think it sets the detail apart, which is what we're trying to do here. Speaking of detail, I've added in a brake lever and added doors to the firebox with a little gold lever that would open and close this. Not only that, I've replaced that terrible looking black handle with a nice bright red crowbar. So now people who are looking at the set really do get that appreciation of the detail, and train nerds like me can tell it's accurate. Or well, at least accurate as you can get out of Lego bricks. Now before talking about more mods you could potentially do to other aspects of this set, I just want to shout out a point that I made in my discussion video on this set, discussing the train conductor. Many people work on these types of trains, and I'd like to think that Lego's design team thought about this when designing this figure, as they put 0 skin tone at the top of this figure, meaning you can swap out the head and add some more crew to the train. I'm talking firemen, engineers, and people who can carry stuff onto the train, as you do see many of these workers throughout the Harry Potter films. Speaking of the Harry Potter films, let's talk about those epilogue figures for a minute, and the two very notable missing characters. I still can't really believe that they decide to miss out Ron and Hermione from this scene, even if it was just them and not all of the kids. Not having those inclusions feels like a massive misstep to me, so let's add them. Now many people have already done this, so it's not very hard. I'm just going to go through these figures and tell you what I've used as opposed to what other people have. First off, Hermione uses the torso and legs from Tina Goldstein. This torso and legs is fairly easy to get a hold of, and looks the best unless we get a dedicated print. I've used my favourite female face print, the Hermione CMF2 face, and given her a reddish-brown ponytail. As for Ron, I've used a torso from Frodo Baggins, a rarer torso piece, but I think the one that looks the best. I've used some standard Obi-Wan hair, but there are pieces out there that I do believe will work better. And as for the face print, this one's actually Professor Quirrell. Thought it had the smirk that Ron would normally give, and like I said with Hermione, unless we're getting a dedicated print, this one's going to be fairly difficult to do. Along with these guys, I've also updated the Harry Potter figure. I've given him a completely different hairpiece, as I believe this one to just look way more accurate to the scene. Also, I finally got my replacement head from Lego, so thanks Lego. And I've given him some printed trousers from his CMF version, as this belt and shoes detail seem to be present in this scene. But here's the thing, I couldn't just stop at these guys. So on top of that, I also did every single main epilogue character. This includes the Malfoys, which I particularly like the Malfoy and Scorpius figures. Remember, I'm trying to match the movies here, not the Cursed Child. So Scorpius is using the short legs. I've also given him a suit jacket because you can see a white collar in this scene. And as there's no hood, I don't believe this is Hogwarts robes. Also very fitting for a Malfoy to be going to school in a suit. I've used a face print from Anakin and some regular Luke Skywalker hair. As for Draco, I'm using a fudge suit, Matt Smith's face print, and this is actually some tan swept hair, which only came in a footballer CMF. And as for Astoria, I don't think she's massively accurate, but I'm using Peggy Carter's face and hair and a suit from the Seinfeld set. I've also updated Albus's print, mainly the face print. I really don't understand why Lego decide to always use those generic child face prints when they have face prints like this from the Stranger Things set, just waiting in their arsenal. It works perfectly for this set as well, why not reuse them? This face print from Mike from Stranger Things works perfectly if you ask me, and gives that worried look that Albus has before he enters the train. Speaking of perfect Stranger Things minifigures, Rose Weasley uses Eleven's torso, and also some mid-light blue legs from Will. The face print is from Ginny Weasley CMF2, and it's just a standard orange hairpiece with a ponytail. As for Hugo, I've used a Surfer Boy hairpiece in ginger, although there is a bowl haircut in dark orange that you can get on some old Ron figures, which I believe would work better on this figure. The face print is Seamus's from the Hogwarts Moments books, and the torso is just from a standard Harry Potter figure. I've also given Rose a little blue bag, and I've given Ginny a nougat one, as they are both carrying bags in the scene. Unfortunately, Lego don't really make handbags, so I couldn't really find anything for Hermione. And with that, there's all of the figures from the epilogue that you guys could ever need, And I don't know about you, but this figure selection will certainly do for me until we get official prints. Putting all of these guys on the station really does fill this station with life, and I have a load of spare Harry Potter torsos, so I'm going to just fill up the rest of the studs. I really do think filling the station with as many minifigures as you can possibly get on it, and having all of these epilogue figures just stand out in their different color outfits, is the perfect way to complement such a massive set. And this will certainly be the way I'm displaying my station, along with a few mods that I want to do to the station itself. First off, on the top of the rails here, I want to just add some inverted tiles and get rid of those nasty anti-studs. As the rest of the build is tiled off, I think this will just look better in general, even if it does make this rail slightly thicker. Another tiny mod I want to do is just replace these white globes with clear heads. As I plan to eventually light up this model in the future, I want these to be clear just to have the best lighting option possible. I really wish they made this white piece in clear, but unfortunately they don't, so a head will have to do. And the final thing I want to do to the station, which I've seen a fair few people complain about actually, is the underside facing the train. Now honestly, I can understand why LEGO didn't really put any detail into this section of the track because, well, no one's ever going to really see it. So putting extra piece count here and increasing the price because of it is kind of pointless in my eyes. But I've seen a lot of people on the internet complain about this section being not as detailed as the rest, so I think it's time to fix that. Now first of all, I've got a bunch of masonry bricks, as I want to build two little grey undersections underneath here, where we can just add some detail and tile it off. Here is the station with a few more little details. As you can see up here, I've got a little spider and cobweb, with a few boxes underneath the platform, as if something's just been dropped under there, and no one's been able to really get it back. Speaking of which, on the other side, I have a stack of newspapers here. Even though these would totally get blown away when the train goes past, I still think it's a fun detail nonetheless. Next to those, we have a stray chocolate frog card and a little cult of chocolate frogs that have managed to escape their box prisons and are now starting new lives in the wizarding world, in hopefully somewhere where they won't melt. And with that, I think I fixed all of the detail issues to do with this set. If you guys have any ideas on what you think you could add to this that I potentially didn't do, you can let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to hear my full thoughts to do with this set, I highly recommend watching this video here. It's one of the best videos I've ever made, and it's a full 25-minute video on why people don't particularly like this set and the reasoning behind LEGO's decisions. If you like this video, you'll like that one, or potentially this one, where I redesign this set and make it fit on LEGO's standard track, blend in with other LEGO trains, and motorize it. Click the screen, I'll see you guys over there.